I felt like I needed to get away from my culture to
Mm.
find something. But then you've traveled, you know, what's the right word? Extensively, like a lot. You've
Mm.
seen, and I wonder that where that drive comes from. Then, if you've, uh, yeah, what made you do that journey through, Mongolia?
Mm. Yeah, so it wasn't that frightening at all, because it already felt familiar. So
Uh-huh.
when moving from one place to another place, and not just for holidays, not just like a tourist, it's well, you start appreciating different cultures, that there's so many different things out there, and not scared anymore. Again, as mentioned earlier, when you experience more, you are familiar with that.
Mhm.
And of course, there's a downside of that with traveling, that you do not pay attention anymore to so many, how to say that, unique things, or so everything becomes a norm. So what used to be a something exotic to go to Turkey, Iran, one of stands or something like that, now it is simply a norm, because it's not that difficult to do. At the moment it is, yeah. Okay, let's accept it, it is at the moment. But back then, no, it's just, I thought it's not so, such a challenge. I cannot accept, and I will give up. So
Mm.
just thought, yeah, okay, I can do it.
So, would just is one? Do you mean it was normal because the idea was you could see that the 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 plan was normal, like it wasn't too difficult to manage logistically, or just the feeling of going
Ooh.
through different countries was very normal. It was, um,
The logistically everything, what was, well, I was trying to prepare to that as early as I can,
hmm,
and yeah, so, but I was preparing for that 2 month trip half a year, or even 7 months. So it took 7 months to prepare for 2 months trip on the 50cc thing. Uh, so there were again so many new things out there. I had to get so many visas, to get information about how to travel there, about just simple thing as money, whether I can pay by card or just always cash. Where can I get cash, and so on, so on. So yeah, that rule that in Iran you always have to wear trousers, no matter what, for men. It's just
mhm,
so, there so many little things which were new to me back then. And yeah, it's like, again, back to the point when trying to learn so many new things. And yeah, it's cool, it's so exciting, just with all these movements of all the things around, just so overwhelmed, and just forgot what else was out there with my life. So I was so deep into that. And yeah, going through the trip already, I had something in my mind what's going on, and I still find myself looking at the map, and somehow imagining the place, how it may look like, and then actually coming to a place, you see completely different picture what you imagined. So when, for example, some small village in the middle of nowhere, and oh, you see the streets, oh, you imagine, oh, there might be some houses like that, there might be a garden somewhere, there might be a park, and come there and just two wooden houses, and nothing.
uh-huh.
So it just goes completely the opposite direction of what you expected, and what type of architecture and everything. And so it always surprises how different your perception can be, and the real world. Of course, real world to everybody is different, and you cannot make anyone feel the same way like you do. It's just, yeah, we name things in the same way, but it doesn't matter that we see them how we perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just yeah, this whole tsunami of new information and new places, and even though I'm used to um, getting familiar with new places quite easily, quite soon, that was slightly on a different level, not as I expected, and of course 2 months in a row sleeping every time in a new place, it was a bit of a thing.
Mm.
So I, I, I think I mentioned also previously that one of the last nights when I had to stay in one place just to get a visa to enter Russia again, I stayed in that place for 2 or 3 nights, and I already felt like I was going somewhere else. I was dreaming that I was moving somewhere, and then I just didn't realize that I'm still in the same place. And then
Ah,
when I returned back to Lithuania, I was still waking up in the middle of the night with the feeling that I'm going somewhere.
yeah,
So I already gained that momentum of going constant movement, and it was now more difficult to stop that train than just let it go,
mm-hmm.
because physically it is a bit tiring, of course, just to have very little sleep, but then like in my psychological world, it's also just all there constantly the flow, and it would probably would be a matter of time when that burn down arrives, and like no, I cannot do anything at all now. It just everything is gone. So it's hard to find that balance. Absolutely.
That's super interesting idea that journey has, like, is the word inertia, like it keeps moving
Yeah.
even when you stop. uh it's like, I don't know if you ever went on water slides when you were a kid and you spent the day on water slides and you get into your bed at night and you still feel like you're on a water slide. It's a crazy feeling. But this, yeah, that feeling of like, uh inertia, it doesn't, yes, doesn't sound healthy, and the train's a good analogy as well. Like it was moving too fast and too much novelty all the time, because it sounds very healthy to travel and to challenge your expectations all the time. And yeah, I wonder if you traveled enough. I wonder if in on your journey you stopped having expectations of how the village or the town would look, or does your mind just make them anyway? But it would be interesting to train yourself out of expectation, to like have so much, because you can never expect, anything properly.
You shouldn't.
No.
I think you shouldn't. Otherwise, you may feel really disappointed, and that's where all sort of emotions may come. That you expect one thing, it goes absolutely the opposite way, and that's not based on your expectations, and you're kind of disappointed because of that. So, and to backwards train yourself, or like untrain yourself to make these expectations. It is a hard task. You always have to be cautious about that.
Mm.
For me, it didn't work because even now, when I look at the map, oh yeah, yeah, okay, and then I get out of the train. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hello there. So that's different story, not what I expected.
Yeah.
So I, I I I usually look at the map, and then I try to navigate myself through the space just based on the map I load into my brain. That how it looks like, where's the north, like what's going on there, and then becomes so difficult, so distracting when you actually start navigating around, because there's so many things like which can surprise you. Because if it's unfamiliar place, you pay more attention to what is surrounding you,
Hmm.
because you need somehow to place yourself in this world, so you you are somewhere here. You're not you do not just exist somewhere virtually in someone's mind. You are here in the physical world, and there are things around you, and you must be able to navigate through them. So yeah, and when you start to uh, put together all that picture, like your virtual mind, like it's something what you imagined or something I imagined when I put that map in my brain. Like, okay, so here should be a street, and it should look like that, and here's the angle of the intersection. So and sometimes they simply do not match.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting and so difficult at the same time. But then yeah, I think that the overall picture becomes more saturated, and uh, yeah, just too many things again come together. And especially when at the same time you're trying to take some pictures of something interesting you notice, it's even more fascinating
Mm-hmm.
because at the end you're going through the space with so many little details, and it's constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have exactly the same moment twice. So just the way if you can use that moment. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes yeah, you just can capture that moment and say, yeah, it was like that back then. It's a time travel, but it's never the same.
I wonder if all that novelty and all that newness is like, do, do you think you need some familiarity for a sustained amount of time? Like saying about balance, like okay, if the train moves too fast, there's too much novelty all the time. Um, I wonder, like, it's very difficult to live in constant novelty.
Hmm.
Uh, that probably would have been easier if we were hunter gatherers, right? Nomadic. You're always moving, grazing your way through the landscape. It's only when we decided to stop and dig in the ground and have agriculture when we decided, to kind of sacrifice a lot of novelty. But now so it's very difficult to imagine a life of constant novelty. Um,
Hmm.
so yes, traveling like you did, like every day, wake up somewhere new. I wonder if you did it long enough to, because it sounds like it wasn't healthy to have that novelty constantly.
It might be not really
No.
healthy. Yeah, it just too much of a things. Yeah, it's again taking the analogy of a train. You have an express train which moves from point A to point B in the quickest manner and without any stops and just goes there. So you kind of see something through the window.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow you may smell something, you may get some idea of what's going on there, but you never experience in the way when train stops for like a day or so, and you go out of the train station to walk around to have some lunch in local place and talk to someone, and then get back on the train and move to the next stop. That is the difference in my opinion. And yeah, if you're trying to explore more, it's there never will be enough time to explore something,
Yeah.
because you can always find something new again with that thing, that nothing stays at the same place, nothing is stationary, everything is constantly moving, and you need to somehow keep up with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your choice then when you think you had enough, and
Mm-hmm.
at that point it may feels like you had enough and you want to move to the next stop and somewhere else. So it's more up to that. And yeah, having that express ride, it's sort of like a trailer of what you can get out there. So then it may help to decide uh, where you would like to stop for a bit longer,
Yeah.
or if you want to stop at all. Yeah, okay. So from this perspective, it is useful
Mm.
because then you can feel it's again with the real life, not just looking at the map or trying to project it somehow in your mind. As I said, you look at the map, imagine it one way, then you come there, it's completely different. So at least there is a better feeling of what's out there.
Yeah.
It's not 100% feeling of what you would be able to experience, but it's still something closer to real thing. I like also to move and to see things changing, just maybe not always to find that cultural thing, but more to explore nature.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, it was really awesome how the landscape changes, and it
Yeah.
can change really quickly, like in 100 kilometers, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And or just you go over the hill, and it's again like, whoop, what's going on? Where am I? I'm in completely different world. Like, or just simply crossing the border of one country to another, again, it's like completely different story. What's out there? So I more enjoyed that aspect, and I'm not sure if I'm missing a lot that they didn't have a chance to experience that people's culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I was so fascinated by how beautiful nature is there. Because not in all places people had the chance to touch that place, so there's still lots of places where people didn't put their feet on,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's so cool to see that, and yeah, wow, so gorgeous. And yeah, so might be that's my goal was actually to see all those beautiful views,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
just live the life of people who live there and get familiar with their idea. So yeah,
Ah, I'm glad you said that. That's like
from that perspective.
that's yeah, that's another way to travel. Like you to and the exact way you did it on moped, you know, you're moving, but you're moving slow enough to take it in, at least landscape wise. Yeah, you can't have
Mhm.
conversation or work with someone in the village for 10 days, but you can yeah, you can see the change. So in terms of seeing uh you know the planet, the geography, the landscape, the yeah, that's that's actually a rare way to travel, I guess. People, I don't know if people generally travel to see that, and you did it in such a so many kilometers that you did have the experience of seeing different landscapes. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a very valuable way to travel, and yeah, you've got a different connection with the earth than I have, having not seen that kind of, I don't know, diversity of landscape. You know, there is so I like the fact that I've traveled to a different culture, and I've been able to have kind of a objective view of my own now from being away from it for long enough. Um, but yeah, I've never done that travel in the way that, yes, it'd be lovely to move through different climates and landscapes like that. That's a very valuable way to see the earth, and quite yeah, quite a privilege to have. I don't know how that feels to live with that view, those views inside you know, where it changes you.
To yeah, and I the new brainstorming thought I had just now. So is that you know, when you're traveling and you're seeing the different people's culture, you may judge them. You may say, "Oh, that culture is this or that. I hate it. I like it," or you would like to change something because you know it. It's people's way of behaving in that environment, and
Hmm.
you know it's people who created that.
Yeah.
So you can simply evaluate that. But then when you're going and paying attention more to what nature has created, you cannot say, oh no, I would do it in a different way. No, that's
This mountain is
I
in the
will
wrong place.
absolutely just turn it slightly. It will be better. Make it lower, and then yeah, that will be awesome. So you have no right to go against the nature in
Yeah.
this way. So it's again, it's more like appreciating what nature does
Hmm.
and not trying to become an expert of this thing, like compare something to this or compare this culture to that culture, because this comparison thing, well, to be honest, I don't like to compare those things because everything is unique, and you cannot really say what is better because it's just subjective what is
Hmm.
better, and objectively it's difficult to say what is better because something may be better in one uh, in one quality but worse in another. So how do you measure that? And yeah, so when you start comparing cultures and you say, oh, people here are these, people there are that, and then so they're eating this, they're behaving like that, they're talking like this, and then they look at you in that way, then don't look into your eyes, they wear this clothes. Come on, seriously. And then you look at that forest and you say it's amazing.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
want to change here anything. And then you hear all those birds, and then that river, and then the wind blowing through the top of the trees, and so
Mm.
it's just out there taking what the nature can give you. And so yeah, perhaps when we have again expectations of the world travel, when people say, "Oh, I traveled there," and immediately there is an expectation that there was an idea of traveling to get to know the people, culture, and so on and so on. But maybe, in fact, there was a different reason for me to travel, not just the way how that person may expect or understand the world travel. So just different aspect in
Mhm.
so individual way to get to that. Um,
That's
yeah.
super valuable, like to not to travel just as an unobjective observer. And I was thinking as you're saying about, yes, you arrive to the forest and the forest is there as it should be because it grows here for this reason, because the climate is right and the birds are here because they live in the forest. And everything is working how it should be. So you don't judge it and try to change it. But it'd be nice to travel around different cultures as well without that expectation of what to just watch and go, to not be like, well, oh, this is, oh, look how they do this thing, and so trying to have opinion on it, and just be, yeah, just kind of be an observer of this, and not trying to affect it or judge it. Um, that'd be really nice, because yes, it's all subjective, and there's so many things that form a culture as well. That just arriving in it at that moment, it does seem silly to start going, oh, look at the way they don't look at each other. Uh, it's it's yeah, pointless in a way. It would be nice as well to approach on another level, to approach strangers, uh, not just when you're in a new culture, but a new place, or even to someone you haven't met before. Maybe I'm taking your idea of like, yes, arriving in nature and arriving at this forest, and you know meeting a new person, and then is it possible to take that idea you were kind of sketching in this connection with nature you had and put it towards connecting with people? Can you meet a new person and not be judgmental of them in the same way? Is it possible? um
I think it's really hard.
mm,
It is really hard because you already have some preconception. Is that the right word?
yeah,
A
yeah,
word.
yeah.
So you kind of you heard something about that country where that person is from. You know,
Mm.
as an example, Lithuania. Let's take Lithuania, and Lithuanians go to Western Europe.
Uh-huh.
So there are already a few cliches here. Lithuania is Eastern Europe, and
Hmm.
we're going talking about Western Europe. Something is more developed than the others. Oh, like it was accepted like that some time ago. It doesn't matter how it stands now, but they still like, okay, Lithuanians, they're from Eastern Europe. They may not, so they maybe somehow from the past, they maybe don't have all those technologies. It doesn't matter, for example, that in Estonia, Skype was created and it then became popular worldwide. And
Hmm.
so there's so many things which were created there, and it's so fast-paced countries and so on and so on. So those labels, they already destroy that experience.
Yeah.
So, and those labels, they're created based on historical data, not
Hmm.
the actual place where that person is from, or well, who that person is.
Hmm.
You may get only information where that person comes from, but that should not tell you anything about that person at all. So
Hmm.
if you don't have the actual facts about the person, how can you then make a lot of assumptions who that person is?
Hmm.
So in that aspect, it's really difficult to overcome our nature to create stories about something. So and we always will be willing to create those stories about someone somehow who is doing what. And yeah, that historical thing, I had another thought that again comparing nature and people's culture. With nature, you can admire the present time,
Yes.
but with culture there's so much going on there with its past, with
Hmm.
its history, because it's nature probably is more three-dimensional, but culture is four-dimensional. You have to accept also the time
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
through the time it was changing in so many again different ways, and that may explain why people may behave in one way or the other way, and it may be normal to become or to behave in one way or the other way. So with people it's so much more difficult.
Mm.
And yeah, again, the question maybe, is it fine just to put your focus on the culture or on the history or just how people live at the moment? And when you mentioned your friend who wants to travel to Japan, what is actually he wants to experience there?
Yeah.
Does he want to experience how people live now, or he wants to find out more about history, or he wants to taste some local food, what they do now, or that's nature? So, what is it about he's chasing? Because
Hmm.
even now, you can already try to or and get some enough information about their culture, so about the what people are about in Japan. So it could be a good start there, and yeah, then just connect all the dots when you arrive to that country, and maybe the bad bit about that is when you start preparing for the trip, reading all that information about the past and so on, you already create an image of that country, which will be difficult to change later when you
Hmm.
actually arrive there and you already have that image. But you might have image in any case already. It might be just some blurry with basic facts, like what media writes about that, what friends were telling you about that, or it can be really like saturated picture with many little facts that, so yes, it's this city was established in that year, and there was like democracy, non-democracy, like what way, how they treated each other, how they were treating other countries, like Japan, China conflicts, and so on, so on. So it's so complicated question and task and field, and
Mm.
how you want to explore, and it's never gonna be enough of one human's life to just understand everything. It's just, well, preference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this there probably are. I was thinking as you said this, like you can build up so much, yes, preconception of a place that you haven't visited yet. And then this idea sprung up. Have you ever heard of that idea of people turning up to the airport and they just get the last ticket going and they don't know where their destination will be? Uh, and maybe that's a better
That's also.
idea. It's kind of a crazy idea, right? In you know, one idea is yes, you get obsessed with the country and you build up lots of preconceptions and expectations, and when I get there, I will feel this and it will look like this, and yeah, yeah, I guess the longer you do that, there's a real, I don't know, risk of you're never going to meet those expectations or never going to meet have those feelings. So better to just maybe forget about Japan.
Hmm.
Just wait until the world opens up again. Turn up to the airport with your bag with everything you need. Book a
Play
flight.
the lottery.
Book a flight to anywhere and go live there for 6 months and try and figure it out, because then you would arrive with no preconceptions of the culture, maybe depending where you landed, um, and no preconceptions of the culture, the climate, how you would feel there, and then you might be more accepting of everything, um, like you would be staring at a forest. It's that's the way. Yeah, but you have to have a certain amount of uh, trust in people as well, I guess. That that people are
Mm.
when you arrive in new culture that you will connect with people, get on with people.
But this trust isn't it coming also from the preconceptions? Because who could be people you would not trust? It's possibly those who you heard some bad stories about. That
Hmm.
means, again, it turns back to the point, like you heard something and it already makes you think that, yes, it may feel unsafe there.
Mm,
Hmm. So if you don't know anything about that, you're just open to anything.
mm,
You like, okay, yeah, just feed me everything you have, and yeah, I'm happy to accept that, even if you uh like fool me, and yeah. And so that means you are creating an actual image in my mind from my own experience.
mm,
So the good example about that could be the Iran. So when, again, during the trip, lots of people expectation was that it's so good, it's so friendly, and I mentioned several times I haven't actually experienced it in the same way.
yeah.
So it can be that you may expect people to be really kind to you and help in all possible ways, but when you experience that several times, they trick me,
Mm,
and they just try to get more money out of the situation, and like, then they like, okay, so let's leave our preconception aside, and all those labels and ideas which came from other people's experience, and I just trust my own experience at the moment.
yeah.
And my own experience tells that you cannot always trust everyone, so they still some, like, you have to be careful in every case, but yeah, just try to put aside all the like cliches and ideas that, oh yeah, it's always going to be like that. Oh, treat every situation individually,
That's quite
whether you
wise.
like it
Yeah.
or not.
'Cause part of me wants to have this idea that there's an inherent good in everybody, which I still believe in this generally. Humans are inherently trying to do the right thing, the best thing that they can, but of course, cultural, financial, personal circumstance can change the inherent good of a human and turn it into something that needs, also we need to survive. So yes,
Hmm.
traveling with a naivety and thinking, oh, wherever I land in the world, the inherent good of the human, the stranger will look after me. Yes, I guess you've had the experience where, yes, whatever was causing those people in Iran to be trying to exploit you or trying to get money from you is, maybe they're good people with their family and friends, but in this circumstances, they needed, they maybe, let's say they needed to do that, or they felt they needed to do that at least, to serve some other purpose. But yeah, that's something to take into account. Yes, you do have to be be aware of the moment you're in. Yes, and not be blindly naive to
Mm.
expect you'll be looked after. But then I guess in those situations you're just left with, okay, realizing that, well, this is how I'm perceiving it right now. It doesn't matter what anyone else's journey through Iran was like. This is mine at this moment. And then it falls, yeah, you fall back onto trusting your own perception again. And like we were saying earlier, that's a lesson in chasing your own intuition, chasing your own ball, driving your own train track. Uh,
Hmm.
so you've gone down someone else's, oh, it wasn't true. And then you come back and where's mine, And so that's a good lesson in itself. Um, yeah, nice to be reminded, for me at least, of those stories of because I think I would travel quite naively if it, when I do travel, book a plane ticket to anywhere and expect that you know human nature will look after me. But no, humans can be twisted.
Oh yeah, they can be.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
no, they don't expect you to behave like a child who just um, thinks that everybody is going to be so nice and perfect and all is good. No, not the case, unfortunately. But
Mm,
it's also um, it I think it shouldn't be applied also just for traveling. Must be the same in everyday life. So you now live in Klaipeda,
mm,
and if you go somewhere, so you may have an idea that people already are like similar, and yeah, they are Lithuanians, yeah, but Lithuanians can be really different, and so it just doesn't take much to provide some example from everyday life, just to go out there and then see how different people just in the small community.
uh-huh.
And yes, of course, when they are with others, they may behave in different way. Just again, as we talked earlier, to be like their peers, their peer group, and uh, so they belong here. So they are trying to behave like their peers,
Mm,
even though they may not necessarily want to, but it's more like they have to, because otherwise they will be outsiders and they won't be accepted, and it will be much more difficult for them to live.
mm.
Uh, but well, it's just again that preconception that it might be too difficult to live if you're somehow different, so behave different or talk different language, and
But it's nice at least to recognize that um, that people are only affected by their circumstance or their fear or yes that needing to fit in is a kind of survival mechanism, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
but yes, from my past, like trying to, like I was saying, trying to fit in with everyone with, these tattoos or whatever I did, behaviors or jobs or living a certain life. Um, yes, it is a survival thing. Some of it comes from not knowing, in me, not knowing any better, um, not having open mind or bravery enough to to find my own path. But what am I trying to say? Like now, now I can be objective. It's not, it's nice to, it's good to see other people. Um, it's hard to see other people who are kind of uh, in that survival mode, not being a good person, maybe, not being their best potential human self, um, but then also kind of trusting that that best potential is still there,
Mm.
um, and that with the right circumstances they could, actualize it, to be able to see it and then start living it. But that helps me at least to forgive people who are, if I was in Iran and someone's exploiting me, yeah, as long as you maybe navigate that situation so that you can be safe. But yes, to forgive that person. I guess that's what we do with the 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 justice system, right? We still, okay, you did something really unforgivable, but so we're going to take you out where you can think about, try and become, get away from all these expectations that led you to this
Mm.
place, and get you to really think about what you, not only what you did, but what you want to do. Um, so, prison is a strange thing, but it, it trusts in the inherent good of people that they will change. And yeah, your travel experience sounds like it may have given you that again, like, or did it give you that, or do you have that feeling?
Uh, well, don't really know if that was the feeling, because when you mentioned the prisoner and taking out of society just to place it separately, feels like now that happens to a lot of people. They are taken out of society and they are put in the place like to think what they're doing, how they're doing, but it's
Mm,
like without the real intention to make people aware of where are they currently in their life.
yeah.
So
You mean with
with
quarantine, right?
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
with prisoners, they have that intention. So you are being put away to think, and then we expect you to come up to some conclusion,
Yeah.
and so you might want to change your behavior. Now, when currently people are asked to stay away or use some virtual means of communication, so um, yeah, they lose that physical contact with other people. They still may have that virtual contact, but of course it's not exactly the same. But it gives them a time to actually probably reconsider their values and their lives. I wonder how many people actually got to use that time wisely, not just constantly being anxious about, oh, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. You can do some other things.
It's a
It's
really
a good.
rare thing. Yeah. The opportunity.
Mm. It's otherwise you're in a really fast-paced world out there with all those and distractions and everything. Uh, Even now, I'm not sure whether that internet traffic has increased significantly or not when people like got separated from other friends. So do they actually use a lot of that internet communication or not? Yeah, there might be some increase in this volume, but still, maybe it becomes more with more quality than quantity. So
Mhm.
you start to value those things. So, just thoughts. What life brings you there and what you can take out of it.
Yeah, this
It's really nice.
I don't know. It does invite self-reflection this time. Well, like in my experience, I avoided self-reflection by consuming for a long time,
Mm.
and then yeah, fortunately, I guess I was left to that place where okay, I was left with nothing else but to sit with myself. But yeah, I guess that's yeah, it's a super rare opportunity for people to be able to do that. Um, and yeah, they are kind of in isolation then, and even from their culture in a way, in a kind of well, self-agreed prison, because in your room, um, at least mine in UK, even if you go out into the street, you can't like uh, connect socially with the normal cultural habits, like work routines, conversations, and um, cultural events and things. You're just yeah, you've it's as close to being everyone being in prison as or in an ashram as possible. And I was I was hoping that this whole experience would would people would have more conversations about their isolation time, or if they changed, or had people had realizations, or had people been to the same place I had of like this, oh God, this kind of depressing feeling of, oh, I know my habits of consuming, and I know my ability to avoid my own being with myself, and really valuable things to learn, but uh, not many people seem to talk about this uh, very, what I think is a very unique experience. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm surprised. I'm surprised that, you know, like when I came back to work, you know, Lithuanians here had been in isolation. People had been off work at least earlier last year. Um, but no one was like, oh, what did it feel like in month three? Did you go crazy too? No one had these conversations. Very strange.
Yeah, yeah, with Lithuanian culture and that depression thing, it is still stigma felt. It's being released because just recently been announced that depression is no longer a circumstance when you lose your driving license.
Oh wow. Okay.
So until this year or end of last year, if you have a depression written on your somewhere record, you are not allowed to have a driving license.
Wow.
You were not allowed. So see, that was a concern, and I was like, wait a second, but how, that works exactly the opposite way. You are making people stay quiet about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, if in other countries people may talk openly about that, in Lithuania, it's just the most recent thing that people actually admit that there is such a thing like depression, and you have to do something about that. I'm not sure if you went through some statistics numbers.
No.
Yeah, it's quite sad thing that Lithuania is in the world's number one on suicide rate.
I heard this, yeah.
So in 2020, at least some numbers which I saw from World Health Organization, it was 31.9 per 100,000 people. So the death of COVID rate was much lower comparing to suicide rate. And still, you see which measures are have higher priority. Is just to put people aside, and so in a side effect, it even makes a greater impact on their mental health. So it might be backfiring quite heavily, I think. Uh, and yeah, so in other countries it may be better, much easier on that one, but in Lithuania, no.
I forget that that isn't a massive thing that I constantly am naive about, is that statistic. And you hear that, oh, it's the highest suicide rate in the world, right? Not just Europe. Or
Yeah, it's even in the world.
I can't contemplate that statement. Um, it does. I can't. Yeah, I don't understand it. Many in much of the same way I didn't uh, feel connected to COVID. I guess in this naivety, like, oh, in my circles, I don't know anyone who has it, and no one knows anyone who has it. Same, like I don't know anyone who's affected by suicide and da da da. But yeah, that's an insane statistic, and obviously would, yes, go to show that uh yeah, maybe people can't talk about that, or mental health is something that's a very difficult thing for Lithuanians to communicate with. Being outside, being not Lithuanian, or being, yeah, naive about that statistic, and not having grown up here, and yeah, being outsider, it's hard to understand how Lithuanians talk about their mental health, considering that's, the highest suicide rate in the world. Do you think that would be a conversation that comes up a lot? To like, oh,
Hmm.
let's work this out. That's insane. Why is this happening? Um,
Yeah, but
but
it's hidden.
it's hidden. It's strange because when I came here, I got the sense that there was one side of conversation where Lithuanians, or there was a stereotype that Lithuanians are quite closed. They won't show their emotions, and they don't trust immediately. But I didn't find that at all. Uh, but I'm beginning to realize over time that Lithuanians are very open, but probably because I was a foreigner, maybe it was different. But I always found Lithuanians quite open and quite sharing. Uh, example, I remember asking um, people, my British habit when people came into coffee shop is saying, "Oh, how are you doing?" And in England we ask, "How are you doing?" And the other one goes, "I'm really well, thanks. How are you?" "I'm really well too." And then, "I'd like a mocha, please." And no one's really saying, "How are you doing?" We're just saying, you know, "Hi." But in Lithuania, I'd say, "How are you doing?" And they'd be like, "Whew, I am having a divorce at the moment. It's tough. It's really tough."
Yeah.
And my Englishness, well, I wasn't ready for that. Like, and people would be quite open a lot, so I didn't experience that closeness. But clearly, it exists, if that is the statistic. And so, yeah.
So yeah,
Mm,
if you're addressing that, if you're asking how are you
mm,
doing, you may get an answer.
mm,
But if you're not asking, I think it might not be actually the case when people start and talk about that.
yeah,
So yeah, of course that difference, like how are you, and then your rights, and that British thing. Here it's still, people are not aware of that thing in British culture. So that's why they react in a different way. Like, oh, you genuinely want to know how am I doing? Oh, okay, there we go. So finally, someone asked me. Now I can
right,
tell everything. Yeah. So you're some foreigner, stranger. I don't know you. So I can share some secrets because still you don't know me, you don't know who I am, you don't know who I'm talking to, and
yeah,
so you don't know my circle. So I can relieve that, you know, some pressure which I cannot relieve in normal life, and so it is like
safety,
yeah, relief valve, and like okay, gone. And
yeah,
with that question, you actually might have done some great job for other people's like um, mental health, because
mm,
otherwise they may have had some different decisions, and so maybe someone said, oh yeah, I'm having a divorce, and then he, by saying that out loud, may start thinking about it in a different way. When you're saying things just in your head, it sounds different when you're talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the same thing about this travel to Mongolia. It just came to me today when I realized that what I was enjoying the most in the trip, and what was the most valuable for me, because I actually said that out loud, that yes, I enjoyed more nature than people culture. And so that's realizing the moment is just to yeah, make it the real world, not just something in your head, and
Mm-hmm.
that is really powerful.
It's strange that that's all it takes to get people to connect, is asking how are you. But actually, even in my culture, where people say how are you every day, and then they reply with the not real answer. um Interesting, this came up because I was talking to my therapist about this the other week, is this recognizing this need that I have for someone to ask, to really ask, how are you? Like, not how are you, not how are you, but really, how are
Mhm.
you? And that, and I realized, wow, yeah, I don't have many people I know that really take the time, or maybe people in general don't really take the time to really ask that question. And I realized this in that therapy, that, oh, that's something I miss. And actually not having that, for me, causes I don't know, it can lead to not healthy relationships. Trying to look for that care in the world can be unhealthy. And maybe in Lithuania too, yes, not having the outlet to be able to talk when no one's asking how you are, but you don't feel good, then, well, how are you meant to get rid of that pressure, as you say? So it's really important, even in, and maybe no one is asking, really. Not enough people are really asking how are you, but really, how are you? Because
Mm.
life's really confusing. And
Right.
so yeah, it'd be nice to have more open conversations about that. It's nice to think that, yes, those conversations in coffee shop helped, or might have helped. And from what I heard in retrospect after selling it, um, there was a group of people, yourself included, who would come to that coffee shop for. I realised that, correct me if I'm wrong, but people come to that coffee shop not just for coffee. They come for the connection and
Yeah.
conversation, and that's what was kind of magic or special about that space. Is, okay, we have this drink or this excuse to have a conversation. And yeah, when the place was sold, it remained a coffee shop, but um, unless you have someone there, or a community of people there that will invite that conversation or allow it to happen, uh, it will be missing. And from what I hear, that you know the kind of little community that was frequented that space, they couldn't they that they couldn't replace that conversation. And I feel the
Mm.
same. Like, um, one of the reasons we're talking now is because I miss our conversations. And there's no way in my circumstance, in my circles, um, that I've been able to replace these kind of conversations, the kind of conversation we're having now, uh,
Hmm.
the kind that we all enjoyed in the coffee shop. I don't know whether that's because people are too busy, or there isn't that platform, that room, that space, or just people not making time for it. But
There's no habit.
there's no habit of it. And but so yeah, ever since selling it, um, I did move on to other things and got obsessed with the forest and teaching. And but there's still, oh, that this thing that we're doing is still missing. And it's a very valuable thing to share, uh, or how you are, and just to share your mind, connect your mind with someone else over. over over a proper conversation, one that's not like distracted by um you know for example, my conversations at work are, there's 20 toddlers around.
Mm,
You have conversations that last like one sentence, and then you might carry on the next bit of the conversation 2 hours later. And
mm,
it's the same with any job I've ever been in. It's or if you're having a conversation socially, uh, like I don't know, at the pub, or drinking or something, or around the in a restaurant, some distraction input. So, yeah, it's very good to make time to see one another and go like, oh, where are your thoughts in the universe at this moment? And
mhm.
yeah, yeah, hopefully it's a healthy thing still carrying on. But sad for Lithuania coming back to hear that thing, and sad that people won't open up. I might take it upon myself to start asking people how they are a bit more
Yeah,
politely.
yeah. That's a good thing. And I was sort of making a joke with my British colleagues.
Mhm,
So when they ask, so how are you doing? Yeah, hi, you're right. And like, so could answer in a usual way that yes, I'm fine,
mhm.
but in the reality may be different. So I already just change their perspective that okay, so it's not always the case that yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, okay. Of course, you may point out that yeah, thanks, good, and how are you? And yeah, everybody says good, good, good. At least you hear some positive words.
Mm,
That also may be a little thing that, well, at least you're telling someone that you're good, so you somehow try to convince yourself you're good.
yeah.
Uh, but then yeah, they say, oh, really? Wait a second. Yeah, so what's going on? And yeah, they immediately get confused. Wait a second, like yourself,
Uh-huh.
you can answer it in a typical British way, but there's always the second part of that uh, sentence that something is hidden, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's really good or maybe it's like good and super awesome because just had the super nice experience, just like whatever, I don't know. But then yeah, there's something negative what usually leaves the deeper um, deep, deeper, how to say that, not experience, deeper emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So negative thing has much more force than positive, and power. That's also somehow has been proved that if you're saying one negative thing, you have to say at least five positive things after that to
Yeah.
get back to where you started. So the negativeness, yeah, it leaves a lot of like, well, I'm missing some words now. Um, things in our life which hopefully can be decreased. And even now, yeah, there is more attention to more negative things. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the news feed and everything, it's just negative, 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 and just
Yeah.
that saying, "Hi, how are you? Good. How are you? Good." That somehow raises that level
People want
to.
to stay in that no, because good is like non-committed, right? It's not saying everything's awesome, I'm not excited. It's not
Mm,
saying everything's really bad. It's saying normally, it's like it's fine. And
yeah.
yeah, it's I guess I never thought of it like that before. It sounds like you're suggesting it's kind of like it's like yeah, optimistic kind of thing. It's like saying you're saying you're good because it keeps you moving, at least for now in this moment. Yes, there's like a few things on my mind that are causing problems, and there's a few things I'm worried about in the future. But if I say I'm good right now, then I can get on with this moment. Um,
Mm,
because yeah, if you do open that box and say, I'm having a divorce, then that box of like clowns jumps out, and you have to like, okay, you have to unpick all those things, and it takes time, but it's super important to like, if someone says that, you'd be like, okay, then whatever we're doing kind of has to stop. Maybe not in the moment, but at least if someone comes to you and says, let's say, yeah, that divorce example, then you have a opportunity then to have a conversation about that for, it could be a while, to
Mm.
get through that problem. You may not be able to have a conversation about that in that very moment, but then it will be on your mind, that, oh, that person's having divorce, how are they? So, but without that sharing, then that person who's going through that thing, yeah, they're just stuck in it, by themselves,
Mm.
I guess. So yeah, having that uh that how are you, that real thing, like therapy's been really good for me for that, because even if I've got no one close enough, like I've got no one close enough in my circles, even family, I got people I can get to some levels with, like of personal worry or drama or thoughts, but there's no one I can get to every level with. So I started seeing the value in therapy, that, well, at least once, however, let's say I have this once every 2 weeks. Once every 2 weeks, I have the opportunity uh, to say anything that's on my mind. And because that person is getting paid, they accept that for this hour, they uh, are going to be that person who listens to anything. I have no idea how therapists can survive that job, being that person who just is this filter for anything. But of course, it's extremely helpful,
Mhm.
because even friends, yes, for some reason, I don't know what's like. Be interested to know if you have this friends or colleagues or family that you can get to every every level with. You can express every fear and insecurity with. Because I don't have that, and I asked my therapist what she has friends like that, and I thought, oh, okay, is it just me who doesn't have friends that I can get to that level of personal nature with? And how many people don't have that kind of network? And if you don't, well, I think it will cause problems. So I wonder, in maybe a personal question, in your circles, do you have that kind of relationship with anyone who you can be really, really vulnerable with?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Actually, I do have several people, of course. So I'm not bringing absolutely everything to one person.
Hmm.
So there are different topics around there. So I just separate them, and then, well, so-called sort what I can talk about with one person.
Hmm.
Then with another person, it's more about different thing because we have already discussed quite a lot. So then about the third thing with the third friend, and so it's not concentrated on one person like in your case with therapist, but
Yeah,
with uh, different people on different topics. But then at the end of the day, nearly everything is covered. So
that's great.
yeah. Mm.
And yeah, really, yeah, fortunate thing. If there's anything valuable to health, then that's a great, that's a really valuable thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, now I'm thinking like I've actually have a Zoom call with my, uh, I guess my university group of friends later this evening, and I'm going to try a vulnerability experiment and see if I can see if if I can get to a place where maybe I can really really ask them how they're doing. And because in that group of friends, as much as I love them, we all get on very well. There isn't that level of of sharing everything, but I know that there have been some circumstances in our history that occasionally we've opened up about we're not just we're not just making each other laugh, oh, my work's really getting me down, and maybe I'm depressed, uh, and then the group comes and helps, and it's a very beautiful thing. But then we go back to like just this level of, well, let's just be silly. But I really think there's more value in being able to have both things. So um, I'll try that experiment later. Little do they know that when I
Mm.
ask how are you, I'll be how be like this. But really, yeah,
You know, it's easier to open up when there's actually someone who is doing the same thing. So
yeah,
if you start the first one, I'm almost sure that there might be someone else there who doesn't feel like he's the only person who feels the same way. So it's like, is it more like pluralistic ignorance thing when yeah, so there's much that there are a lot of people out there who think they think differently than all the other people think. So it's just in their mind, someone may think that he thinks it in a different way, and so other people think in a different way, not like they do, just because they act differently, because it's like social norm and so on, so on. So that's why they kind of struggle to express themselves in what they really think, because they like don't feel that it's a good thing or it's like acceptable thing, and
yeah.
so that's why they stay quiet. uh, but yeah, then there is another side of that pluralistic ignorance, that other people, even if they hear someone talking that out loud, that yeah, that there you go, so there will be some people who still try to drag it back to the old place, like, no, we still are the same, we still think in the kind of
Mm.
same way, even though it's completely different. So it's a tricky thing to explain, but I hope you get what I mean.
I think so.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
feel it in that group. Yeah.
mm. But then again, if you can name it, I think that can open a really nice conversation after.
Yeah, it'll be lovely. And yeah, when you get to that, so those conversations in Lithuania where someone talked to me about their divorce or or their mental health at that time, yeah, it opens up a kind of, once someone feels safe enough to share it, and then the person they're sharing it with honors that, or listens enough, then yeah, it creates a very like a foundation for a great friendship or connection in the future, and that doesn't seem to go away. It seems, even if if I haven't been in contact with someone for a while, but we had that moment where we shared some vulnerability. Um, well, that yeah, that seems to last, and so it's super valuable. And then also, if something is blowing you off track in the present, then I know that, oh, okay, I can in theory I can trust that person because they trusted me, and yeah, so
Mm.
yeah.
All right. So is that the next step with your virtual storytellers? Just to go ahead and then make some more experiments?
I don't know. This is uh, this idea is, yeah, literally, well, like the conversations have in the coffee shop, no expectation. It's like the door opens,
Mm.
any mood, any personality, any culture can come in, and I have to be like, just connect to it wherever it is, and then we're
Mm.
here, and that's what this will be, I guess. I guess
Mm.
less frequent, but as having an open door coffee shop. But I don't know what this thing will turn into. Uh,
Mm.
but it's nice to, yeah, nice to be here now. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah,
Yeah, I really hope then you find really awesome stories and storytellers, and really awesome stories to hear and then share. So sounds like a awesome time, awesome activity.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for thanks for being here today and sharing yours. You know,
Thanks for having me, as they say. It
strange.
was really a pleasure.
Oh, cool,
Yeah,
man. Well, let's do it again sometime. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
and
Let's see how our ideas change, if they change. Well, they might change.
yeah,
So
yeah, they might. Okay, well, I'll say adios for now, and
yeah, thank you very much.
catch you next time, my friend.
Till next time.
Thanks, Felix.
Okay.
Okay, bye bye.
Indeed. Bye bye.
Bye bye.